All right, well, welcome back. Over the last week or so, I've just been doing everything I can to take as much stuff off of the engine compartment as I can. Man, there's so many parts and wires and clips. I end up taking the heater core out and the pedals, the brake and the clutch pedals and that panel, the cover panel on this side that would have been if it was switched to a right-hand drive, and just brake lines, the clutch lines, all those things, the radiator, all those things have been things I've just been working on, taking off this week. And a lot of times it's going to be squirting everything with PB Blaster and letting it soak because the stuff's so corroded and rusted on here. The whole goal is to get to the point where I can pull the motor and transmission, and hopefully we're gonna get closer to doing that today. I'm going to try to work on pulling the drive shaft off, and that'll really probably be my last step before I pull the engine. So hopefully we'll get that done today. So to remove the drive shaft, I went ahead and took the rear wheels off. It just makes it easier to reach in. I don't have to lay on my back the whole time to get to the bolts. And I did have the jack stands underneath the axle, right where the leaf spring connects to the axle. And so what I did is I jacked the car back up and I moved the jack stands closer to the center on the body, and then that allowed the axle to hang down, and I hope that's going to give me enough clearance to get the drive shaft out of there. So there's 4 bolts in there. I sprayed them with PB Blaster, and it's a 1/2 inch open end wrench because you can't get a socket in there. So I just used 2 of those, undid all the 4 bolts and took those off. And now I'm going to go in and kind of tap it with a hammer, and hopefully it's going to pop it loose, and there'll be enough space with the dropping of the axle to pull the drive shaft out. So let's do that next. Now I have all 4 bolts undone from the drive shaft. I'm hoping I can tap this up just like that. Lift up. Pull it out. All right, it's out of there. Perfect. My next thing is I gotta go ahead and take the shifter out because this is gonna have to drop down through. This won't be enough. There won't be enough clearance. So these 3 bolts hold this little ring on, and that should allow it to come right out. That like it's probably a 1/2 inch. Yep.
And actually, once I take these bolts out, I'm going to stick them back in so I don't lose them. Should just pop out. I'm going to leave the plate on. I'm just going to go ahead and stick these back in. Just 3 bolts and washers I have. Less I got to keep track of, so. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the alternator off because I'm actually, when I go to pull the engine, I'm going to put the connector chain through this front bracket. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. It'll just give me easy space to work around. It's just 2 bolts right here and here, and it should come off. The wires were already cut a long time ago, so yeah, that'll make it easier. I'm probably going to just attach the bolts back onto the alternator because I'm going to need a longer bolt to do the chain, so I won't be using it. I'm just going to stick it aside for right now. That'd be a little tricky. There it goes. Forgot there's another. I wonder why it didn't fall. There's another bolt underneath, so I'm gonna stick at least the bolts back through just to hold it in place while I undo the one on the adjustment bracket on the bottom. These will just at least keep it from falling on my hand. And it looks like it's probably so that's that bolt. Now I should be able to just no problems. And there you go. That's it. It's out. So it's going to go in the box with all the other parts, and I'll use this bracket to attach my chain when I go to pull the motor. So I went ahead and used the bolt off the alternator. It's long enough to go through. I thought it was going to be too short, but it's actually long enough. It's the best match I have. So I'm just going to stick it through with the washer on here to basically keep the chain from going through. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down to where it's got enough slack, but it's not going to put stress on the bolt. It's going to keep it close to the bracket. Alright, that should be good enough for this front end. And the back end, I'm going to try to hook
in the back of the transmission housing. Here. Maybe right there. So my concern is I'm not sure that's going to be long enough for the chain to fit through there and still have enough threaded in there, but I'm going to check and see. Yeah, it's not going to be long enough. There's not even enough length to even thread it in there. So I'm going to take this bolt and find out what the threads are for it, and see if I can go to the store or something and get a longer one. It'll give me enough distance. So that's going to be the plan. That one's out. Down enough, just enough space to maybe pull it back a little bit, really. All right, now it's going out. And she's free right there. She's dangling. I don't think I have anything else attached.
reels are nonsense.